And calling in.
Okay.
This meeting, Jerida, are we all set to go?
Yes, we are.
Yes, okay. This meeting will be available for viewing on West Hartford Community Interactive, Comcast Channel 5, and Frontier TV Channel 6098, YouTube, as well as www.whctv.org. So I'm calling the meeting to order, and we will begin with roll call, Mr. Bro.
Ms. Blanks? Ms. Cantor?
Here.
Mr. Davidoff?
Here.
Ms. Fay? Mr. Gold?
Present.
Ms. Kerrigan is on vacation. Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Winograd?
Present.
And Mr. Williams.
Present.
So we have Ms. Blanks, Ms. Fay, and Ms. Kerrigan absent.
Yes.
And Mr. Sweeney.
Right, yes. We don't need a quorum, from what I understand, Mr. Dodge, do we, for this?
We actually do require a quorum, Madam Mayor. This is a meeting of the council, although it is a community comment meeting.
So we need 6, so we still are waiting for one more, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, I will make a couple, we'll do a couple texts now. Thank you. We're currently on hold. Okay, I understand Mr. Sweeney is in. So Ms. LeBreau, you want to just confirm that? I'm getting text from Mr. Sweeney that he's in. So Ms. LeBreau, could you want to just confirm for the record?
Mr. Sweeney? He's on.
Okay, thank you. There are no walls. Okay. This is, so roll call, we now have a quorum. We are still missing Counselor Blanks, Counselor Kerrigan, and Counselor Fay. But we do have a quorum. And this is a communications, Deborah Cohn of 76 LeMay Street, West Hartford, regarding mask wearing in West Hartford Center and Blueback Square. This is the first time we have conducted a community comment meeting in a virtual format. Deb Cohn, a West Hartford resident, has requested that her communication to the town council be presented in writing rather than orally. And I want to read into the record her letter dated June 30. Actually, is it? I don't have a date on this letter, but it says June 30 on my note. So it was prior to this meeting concerning, because I did receive a few communications concerning face covering, but the content of her letter is on our board docs and is accessible on the town website. Her written communication is the only item on the agenda for community comment, and again, is available for public viewing and on board docs. It is a custom of the town council at community comment meetings to simply receive the communication without debate, and we will follow this process tonight. I understand, however, the town manager, hopefully, if time allows, he will be discussing some of the content of the subject matter and concerns in his report. But this will also be discussed in committee meetings, not only at the Public Safety Committee meeting chaired by Councilor Blanks, who's not here, but I spoke with earlier today, and the Economic Recovery Committee with Mr. Davidoff. I spoke with him also earlier today. So they will be discussed. And this is going to be an ongoing commitment of the town to increase and to really engage in compliance on face coverings as appropriate, and people can't maintain 6 feet. I also intend to, so if there's no objection, I will adjourn the community comment meeting. I'm looking around to see if there's any objection. I don't see any, so this meeting is adjourned, and we literally have, we can start the council meeting now. So I will open our council, and I think I just wanted to just make sure that Councilor Blanks has not joined yet. She was en route. I don't see, but if somebody can let me know so she can be acknowledged when she is here. So this is the calling into order the council meeting of August 12th. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And again, if you're able to stand and can say the pledge, you should do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Ms. LeBreau.
Ms. Blanks?
Present.
Ms. Cantor?
Here.
Mr. Davidoff?
Here.
Ms. Fay? Mr. Gold? Mr. Gold?
Present.
Ms. Kerrigan is away. Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Mr. Winograd?
Here.
And Mr. Williams? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBreau. Again, thank you all for joining us on this hot summer night after a very, very challenging almost, well, I don't, the days are all meshed together, a couple of weeks, to be honest. A year, really. But anyway, I want to just start by marking the fact that there are 5,119,711 people that have contracted COVID that we are aware of, and 163,651 deaths from COVID as of today. And that is always a focus of ours. I want to start by approving the minutes. I move that we place, I want to start by approving the town council minutes from 7/14/2020 and 7/29/2020. And with no objection, that will be approved. I don't see an objection. I also want to place items 2A, B, and C on consent. Are there any objections? Those will be placed on consent calendar. So this is the form. If you are not on mute, I would please request you go on mute. Mr. Dodge, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify the action that you were seeking to take, you've not yet approved the minutes. You're placing the minutes for approval on the consent calendar, which would be items 2A, 2B, and 2C.
Thank you, Mr. I apologize. So the item I will just clarify, I move to place items 2A, B, and C on consent. And if there's no objection, those items will be all placed on consent. Okay. Well, with that, we will go to item 3, public forum. Any resident or taxpayer of the town who wishes to address the council regarding any item on the agenda which is not otherwise subject to a public hearing, may call 408-418-9388. Again, 408-418-9388. Access code 132-531-1189. And while we are see if there are any callers that would like to call in to an item that's on the agenda that's not the subject of a public hearing, I would like to remind anybody that comments must be limited to 3 minutes unless you are speaking for a group, in which case you have 5 minutes. Only residents or taxpayers of West Hartford may comment, and all comments must be germane to the item on the agenda. Madam Moderator, do we have anybody that wants to comment at this time?
Madam Mayor, there are no callers on the line.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we will go to item 4 at the consent calendar, in addition to items 2A, B, and C, which were previously placed on consent calendar. I move that we also place items 5, C, D, E, F, 7, F, G, H, I, J, and K on consent. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the items are placed on consent. I move adoption of the items on the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, please call the roll for that vote.
Ms. Blanks?
Yes.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Ms. Fay is absent. Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Ms. Kerrigan is absent. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Winograd?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBro. But we're going to go to town manager reports. But before we go to town manager's reports, I just want to say a very big thank you to a couple of people. So first to Mr. Hart for his leadership during this incredibly challenging Eversource storm, and then the really protracted recovery after. And we still have some issues that we're still dealing with, although they're much better than they were. Although to every single person that's out of power or out of internet and cable, it's trying for sure. And I also want to give a very special thank you to our town clerk, Essie LeBro, for a also in a very challenging time with, I think, was at the height, 6 polling stations with, I think, with 3 days to go out of power. So thank you very much to Ms. LeBreau, our registrar of voters, with what they had to do, both Beth, Kyle, and Patrice Peterson. So thank you all very, very much for your remarkable work and your commitment to this community, and all of the people from our first responders to our public works department that did beyond yeoman's work to get our community back up and running as best they could. So with that, Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt Hart, Town Manager. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Mayor, appreciate those kind remarks. I do want to apologize in advance. I've got a somewhat lengthy report tonight, but do want to cover some important items. The first of which is what the Mayor mentioned. And I'd like to talk a little bit about our recovery from Tropical Storm Isaiah, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyhow, in preparation for the storm, we knew that it had the potential to be a big one, right? And our public works crews, they were hard at work, sweeping the streets, cleaning the catch basins, cleaning our culverts, etc. They got their equipment ready to go, and we issued messages encouraging our residents and our businesses to stow away items that could blow away and cause damage. Also, Eversource assigned a community representative to us, and we worked with David Noble, who's a senior account executive with the company, and he really remained in pretty close communication with me and with Chief Priest and Bob McHugh, our emergency management specialist, throughout. I think as we all know, because we all lived through it, the storm, it really hit us quite hard. It hit our state quite hard. Here we had wind gusts of up to 60 to 70 miles per hour. By 5 p.m. on that Tuesday afternoon, half of our 29,000 homes had no power. 90 plus streets were impacted by downed trees, downed wires, what have you. Another 22 streets were completely inaccessible. So our crews worked with Eversource throughout Tuesday night to make the most severely hit neighborhoods accessible to at least emergency vehicles. And those crews continued to work 12 to 18-hour days to make the roads safe. So on that day, the day that the storm hit, the ERC, our dispatch center, received over 900 phone calls. Over 900 calls required 470 dispatches to police and fire. Due to the extreme amount of trees we had down, our police actually were handling some tree removal, and they used some of their emergency services unit equipment. They cleared 8 roads on their own. And we lost power at several town buildings and schools, including the town hall, fortunately, which is wired for a generator, which we got a few days later. Town and school buildings, including our parks and many of our polling locations, as the mayor mentioned. As council will recall, by the afternoon of August 6th, the day 2 days after the storm, the utility had still only allocated limited resources to us, and the majority of the community remained without power. So we expressed quite a bit of concern about that. And Eversource, they were following their usual protocols, and we talked about that. The first thing they do is they look to address life-threatening situations, then they reopen the roads, then they restore service to critical facilities, and then finally they get to restoring neighborhoods. And they start with areas with the greatest density, and then move on from there. I see a little typo in my report, which I will correct. On Wednesday, August 5th, not the 6th, on Thursday the 6th, the governor, along with the lieutenant governor, our state senator, Derek Slapp, and state representative Tammy Exum actually came out to visit our emergency operations center to learn more about how we were handling the storm. And that was really a good opportunity for us to express our concerns and the need to allocate more crews to the state. And the governor was in close communication with the utility as well. And as the days progressed, Eversource did dedicate more crews to West Hartford and other towns. And once they started to do that, as you know, the pace really started to pick up. But it was several days. And it took until the evening of August 10th for the utility to restore over 99% of its customers in town. So throughout this whole event, our police department continued to check on critical facilities, including our long-term care facilities. We worked really hard, plant and facilities, working with Eversource to make sure that the voting locations were all operational for yesterday's primary. Food safety was a very big concern for any business or home that went without power for an extended period. So this was a pretty neat program in partnership with Quantum Biopower. Our Public Works Department has set up a food recycling station at Norfelt Little League Field. And we're receiving spoiled meat, fruit, vegetables, liquids, etc. And all of that material can be turned into biofuel. That dumpster is emptied each day, and this service will continue through this Friday. The fire department and social services, they were in touch with residents with critical needs. We had 5 individuals who are oxygen dependent, made special accommodations for them. Really want to credit Troy Shipley and the fire department for his excellent work there. Social services relocated 10 families whose homes were uninhabitable. We also provided grocery gift cards, hot meals to approximately 35 families who needed that service. Facilities, as you know, set up outdoor charging stations at 8 locations around town. Most of them were schools, also the Noah Webster Library. We established a dedicated line for residents in need of permits and inspections. Unfortunately, we initially had some issues with that line, but we did fix those. Beginning on Monday, the 10th, our public works crews started a one-time storm debris cleanup service, and they're going throughout the town along the same schedule. They're trying to match the schedule for waste and recycling pickup, but they'll visit each of the 20,000 residential properties in town to pick up storm debris that has been properly brought to the street. So a great team effort there. We want to remind residents that as they recover from Storm Isaiah to make note of things that they were lacking or that could have made life a little bit easier during that extended power outage. I hate to mention it, but we're only halfway through the hurricane season that will run through October. So really encouraging people to build out a home emergency preparedness kit. And the items they should have would be batteries, non-perishable food, flashlight, cash. Sometimes you need cash. For example, when a store doesn't have the ability to process credit cards, portable phone charges are huge. Ice can be very, very important. So before I wrap up on this item, I want to add to the mayor's thanks. I think it really was a tremendous team effort on the part of the organization. Our public safety units, police, fire, and emergency management, I spent most of my time in direct communication with Chief Priest and emergency management specialist Bob McHugh, and they were fabulous. Public Works, very, very involved, as you know. John Phillips is really a great leader in an event like this, and we're fortunate that we have a dedicated tree crew here in West Hartford that we can rely on. Plant and facilities did tremendous work, including getting the polling locations open. IT supported us throughout. leisure and social services, as we talked about earlier, supporting families in need. Our economic development coordinator, Ms. Gorski, was in touch with our businesses, providing them with valuable information. Our library was staffing the phones, handling phone calls for the rest of the organization. Town clerk and the registrars, they did fabulous work getting ready for yesterday's primary. The building department out making emergency inspections. Our public information officer, Renee McHugh, she and Bob made quite the husband and wife team. They dedicate extraordinary number of hours for us, and Renee was huge during this event. Our Eversource rep, Mr. Noble, despite some of the company's shortcomings, especially early on in the event, Mr. Noble was great. He was always accessible and available to take our calls and to work with us. And last but certainly not least, I wanted to commend our mayor, Mayor Cantor, for her strong leadership and providing those daily Everbridge notices to our residents and staying in constant communication with me. I know she answered each and every email that she received. Mayor, I know that was a lot. I would like to continue to talk about our enforcement of executive orders and state guidelines, as you mentioned during the community comment. I can do that now or pause to take questions regarding the storm, whatever you prefer.
Why don't we pause and take any questions from the storm, and then we will continue with you to cover to talk about the next topic. Any questions for the town manager regarding the storm? Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate what you said, Matt. Great job by you and the town staff. Really, we were on Fern Street and we were all kind of trapped here, and you kept us all up to date. And Public Works came by, got rid of the trees. All the kids thought it was a trip to see. It was smooth, professional, quick. I also like to thank you because during all this madness, I actually reached out to you about a permitting issue that was a concern of a resident. You jumped on that as well. So kudos to you to keeping the other facets of government moving as well, even though we were interrupted by the storm. So thank you, Matt, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any other comments, questions? Okay, Ms. Blanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. And I would just like to echo it. Matt, I'm not going to repeat everything that you said and everything everybody else said, but what I found fascinating was immediately after the storm, before the crews can get to a lot of those places where trees were down, I thought Public Works did a great job with the signage and getting the cones up and tape up so that people wouldn't make the situation even worse. So just kudos to that, because that was important, especially to young adults or young people like two of my own who are driving and may think that it's okay to drive over down power lines. So thank you to you and the staff for always coming through.
Thank you, Ms. Blanks. Yeah, the primary focus was keeping everybody's safety and making sure they were aware and taking care and marking those dangerous situations. Anything else? All right, with that, I don't see any. Back to you, Mr. Hart, on face coverings.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So the next big topic for my report this evening, I'd like to talk about our ongoing efforts to enforce the governor's executive orders and the state guidelines regarding social distancing and wearing face coverings in public, including outdoor settings like town center, where people can come in close contact with each other. And as you may recall, our initiative, it includes a social media campaign. We've erected physical signage, and we conduct frequent staff patrols in town center, in Blueback Square in particular. So during the week, our police beat officers, they patrol the center and in Blueback Square, and they encourage pedestrians and the patrons of our businesses to do the right thing and to follow the rules. On the weekends, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night of each week, with the exception of last week, because we were consumed with storm recovery, Our fire department personnel actually maintain a very active presence in the center. And they thank people wearing a mask, and they issue masks to those not wearing them. Our health district personnel will frequently join in those patrols, and the health district will focus on the business establishments. And they take the opportunity to really educate people who are not wearing a mask about the importance of wearing one in a close outdoor environment, because many people are not familiar with the rule. And they think, hey, I'm outdoors, I don't need a mask. But as the mayor said early on, if you cannot maintain at least 6 feet of distance, even in an outdoor environment, you need to wear a face covering. So with those patrols, on the night of August 1st alone, so, the weekend before the big storm, staff made approximately 1,500 contacts. 1,500 contacts, that's a lot in my view. And they were able to obtain, based on their observation, 100% compliance from the people they directly spoke with. So they talked to people, those people put on a mask. In addition to those contacts, they're also talking to businesses as they patrol the center. But despite these efforts, we continue to receive complaints from members of the public regarding the lack of social distancing and the wearing of face coverings. And I know you're getting many of those complaints too. And most of them, they concern the town center. Some concern our parks or other areas of town. And looking at town center in particular, a large number of the complaints mention the congested area between the businesses of Milkcraft and Bar Taco, which is more congested, as you know. So, continuing to get these complaints, we think about whether we need to try more or different approaches. So when we're thinking about this, it's really important to keep the goals of public health and safety in mind. In other words, if we're going to take some additional action here, it should be to facilitate compliance with public health and safety, and really not to minimize the number of complaints we receive. And we also need to keep the data at the forefront. And according to our health district, our contact tracing efforts that they're still very much engaged in do not point to outdoor dining or retail activities as the source of recent infections. The data does show that private group gatherings are actually more problematic and have led to some recent cases. So I've talked about this in detail with fire, police, health district staff, corporation counsel, and the mayor to seek data and information to inform our decision making. So here's what we think. We should continue our current efforts to educate the public and keep our current focus on town center and Blueback Square. We do think we're seeing higher levels of compliance. We've talked about the limitations of the governor's executive order, 7BB, 7 Bravo Bravo, that requires the use of face coverings in public settings. And those enforcement options are limited because that executive order does not establish a specific penalty, such as a fine or a citation. And we do not have the ability at the local level to exceed the parameters of the executive order or even to promulgate our own rules requiring face coverings on public sidewalks, for example. Now, under state law, any person who violates a civil preparedness order is subject to a Class D felony. Class D felony. However, our police officers would be reluctant to take anyone into physical custody for a refusal to comply with a face covering directive because that really seems excessive in their view. And engaging in that type of enforcement, trying to take someone into custody for a violation like this, that could lead to a whole host of other complaints from business owners and town residents, and could even lead to staged protests from the anti-mask wearing crowd, if you will. So all that said, we would certainly welcome the governor taking the step to add a fine or an additional sanction for a violation of his executive order, as that would give us a great tool. So in addition to the current efforts I talked about, here are some additional things we plan to do. Number one, we're going to communicate our support for adding a specific citation for a violation of that executive order to CCM. I've reached out to the executive director and to the governor's office, and I will do that obviously in collaboration with the mayor. Number two, we're working with our engineering and our public works staff to design and come up with a plan to create more physical distance, if you will, between the patrons of Milkcraft and Bar Taco and people walking through that very congested area where we have a narrow sidewalk. Number three, and I think this could be where we get the most bang for our buck, so to speak, we're going to add police officers to the fire department and health district patrols in order to add another uniform presence and to help enforce the importance of following those rules. You know, we think that hearing from a police officer could make a significant impression on young people in particular that are the focus of many of the complaints. And then fourth but not least, we do want to create a separate web page dedicated to Town Center and Blueback Square with information for both members of the public and area businesses. And we think this could be a valuable resource for you as well. When you get a complaint, you know, you could point people to that dedicated web page. Lastly, Mayor, I do have an update from Leisure and Social Services. I know I've gone on at some length. If you could review this, I've posted it at your leisure. The only thing I wanted to point out here is we did take a snapshot of our food operations from March 15th through July 15th in 2020, and we compared it to the same time frame from 2019. And the increase in the numbers are very, very significant. This year, we have distributed 2,900 bags of food, and we have served over 1,000 households. That compares the previous year, we distributed roughly 1,500 bags of food and served 730 households. So you see how the pandemic has really impacted people in a significant way, and that need has increased during this critical time. So I will stop there, Mayor. Thank you for giving me the time for a very lengthy report this evening. I appreciate it. I can take any additional questions you or your fellow council members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. I appreciate that very much. I think, are there any further questions for Mr. Hart? I don't see any. Okay, with that, we'll go to Corporation Counsel, Mr. Dodge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very pleased to report that we will not require an executive session tonight. I would like to everybody to know, though, that my office is hiring. So for anybody who is listening, who knows any qualified lawyers who are interested in working in a great municipal law department, you can visit the West Hartford webpage and apply for an assistant attorney position in my office. We're also looking to hire a part-time assistant. These are filling 2 vacancies that were created when our former assistant corporation counsel and personal assistant left. And so we're very excited to be undergoing that process, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Any questions for Corporation Counsel? All right, I don't see any. With that, we will go to item 7A. Right? I think that's right. We have a number of items on consent. Yes. 7A, new business. Application filed on behalf of Newington West Farms TMC LLC, owner of 1553 1559 New Britain Avenue, also known as Newington West Farms Center, located within Special Development District SDD number 103, The application seeks permission to amend the recently approved but yet to be constructed landscape plan. No other site or architectural changes are proposed. This agenda item will be the subject of a formal public hearing and may not be addressed during this public forum, the public forum of this meeting, as you well know. I move that we set for a public hearing on September 22nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. and refer to TPZ, DRAC, and CROG. Without objection, the motion will be adopted. Mr. Winograd. Mr. Winograd, I think you're on mute.
There we go. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just my power just went out for a second too, so I'm getting myself reset. I said Dallas can cut me off if it's not appropriate to speak right now on this. This is an application to not cut down trees. We previously had voted to allow a change to ordinance for this property. It included a landscaping plan. They've now sent us a letter saying they don't want to change the landscaping in one area. And the result is that existing trees that are there now are not being taken down, and therefore they're not going to do the replanting that they had originally said. I had noted in the original that I was kind of embarrassed by parts of the application and that they were coming to us asking for literally to take down at another part of the property a dead tree, and they had to come to council for it. It says in the application that this was not exempt from coming before us, but I'm frankly embarrassed that we're making someone and a business that is still coming to West Hartford. I'm thrilled they're coming. We know how retail is right now. And the fact that our ordinances require them to jump through this hoop, it's a shame. And I noted that there was a $750 application fee. At some point, I'd like to ask motion that it be waived. And again, and whether staff can figure out a way to not have a full public hearing on this. I know we have had efforts to try to cut red tape, but this just strikes me as, kind of, again, nobody's fault right here, but a kind of ridiculous situation that I'd really appreciate if anybody can fix prior, rather than having a full public hearing on this with the expense that involves. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. So I think I'm going to go to Mr. Dodge because once we set this, I think that's it. But I know this is a focus of staff to streamline. Where are you? Very a lot of background noise. Sorry. But I'll go with Mr. Dallas right now. Mr. Dodge right now. Go ahead, Mr. Dodge.
Hello, Mrs. Sherry. Madam Mayor, Councilor Winograd's point is very well taken. However, is not quite germane to the motion that you were making, which was simply to refer the matter to committee. I think there's an entirely appropriate discussion for another time as to whether there's perhaps a way to streamline this process. I think for now, though, the application is before us, and the question or the question that has been moved is whether to refer it to TPZ, DRAC, and CROG. And so, if the council, if the committees want to look at whether there's perhaps a better process to dispose of applications like this, and that's entirely appropriate. And also, as far as any motion to waive fees, that would be appropriate at the time that the council takes up the actual application.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Anything further, Mr. Winograd?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. I said my piece, and I appreciate the quick legal opinion here.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of agreement that we will work. We need to work on streamlining process, and it does become a little clearer sometimes when it's so cumbersome in a visual way. So I appreciate that virtual way. I mean, thank you. A lot of background noise here. Okay, so I move that I'll just repeat the motion. I move that we set for public hearing on September 22nd, 2020 at 7 PM, refer to TPZ Drac and Krog. Without objection, the motion will be adopted. So, any objections? Okay, motion is adopted. Resolution expressing gratitude for additional private donations of $53,494 made to Westmore Park in memory of Bridget Curtin and appropriating funds for the construction and maintenance of an outdoor classroom. I'd like to make a motion to, again, move these very generous funds for the benefit of this outdoor classroom in Bridget's honor. And so I'd like to make that motion, and I think that will be by, does that have to be by roll call, Mr. Dodge?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You can adopt this by unanimous consent if you wish.
Thank you. Okay, any objections? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. Resolution closing the Westmore Park Site Improvements Capital Project and amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget of the Westmore Park Fund. I make a motion to adopt, and I am assuming that I can do that as well by unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. And resolution amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget of the Community Development Block Grant. Mr. Hart, do you want to talk about this a bit?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to do that. Matt Hart, Town Manager. We also have Ms. Rubino Turco here with us this evening, our Director of Leisure and Social Services, and her office administers the Community Development Block Grant Program, as you may know. So each year, we do receive a block grant from, this is a federal grant passed through the state, and West Hartford, based on its size, we are what's called an entitlement community, so we do receive a grant each and every year. But due to the timing of the notification from the federal agency, the amount of the FY21 grant, we did not have the exact amount in the budget you adopted on May 12th. So we built in a certain estimate, and actually, we're going to be receiving almost an additional $23,000 for FY21. And in order to utilize those funds, you as council need to appropriate the monies via a resolution. So what will we do with that money? The additional $23,000, obviously we will build into the program, and it will allow us to undertake additional public safety improvements in accordance with the program. So we are respectfully recommending and requesting your approval of the attached resolution. Ms. Rubino Turco and I can take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any questions for Mr. Hart or Ms. Rubino Turco? Okay. Seeing none, I will, by unanimous consent, move to adopt. Is there any objection? Okay, motion's been adopted. And resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation refunding bonds. Mr. Hart, would you like to just explain that?
Matt Hart, Town Manager. Sorry, Mayor, it took me a moment to find my mute button there. So each and every year, as the council knows, we issue general obligation bonds to fund our capital fund projects. And we issue, 12 to 14 million a year. It is the primary source of funding for our capital program. But under state statutes, we can issue what are called refunding bonds to refund all or any part of a bond prior to it maturing. So we periodically will take a look at opportunities to refund outstanding bonds so that we can save the town some money. So our financial advisor has identified an opportunity regarding bonds. We issued general obligation bonds we issued for fiscal year 2016. So under our analysis, we would be able to achieve what are called net present value savings when you're looking at the total debt service payable over the course of the debt schedule and excluding the costs of issuance and the underwriter. So for this particular refunding, we're estimating that we could save a little under $600,000 over a 10-year period starting this fiscal year. And we would realize the bulk of the savings, approximately $560,000, in the current year. The new year we just started, FY21. So we're respectfully requesting council's approval, and we think this is a good practice that you have long supported.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Yes, that's great news, and it actually just emphasizes the priority of being fiscally responsible and having a high bond rating. A really positive bond rating makes that possible. So, any other comments or questions for Town Manager? Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Mr. Hart. Did we anticipate this additional $560,000 in revenue when we adopted our budget? And if not, is it just going to be placed into contingency?
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Mr. Hart.
Matt Hart, Town Manager. No, we did not contemplate this at the time of budget adoption. We were working on it. It wasn't certain, and at this point, the plan would be for it to either go into contingency or, perhaps more appropriately, fund balance. That'll be a decision you need to make at a later point.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Mr. Davidoff, anything further?
Nothing further, Madam.
Okay, any other questions on this resolution? I don't see any. I'm not seeing any texts. So from people calling in, we were going to do a roll call for this, Ms. LeBreau. So if you could enter into the roll call. Thank you.
Ms. Blanks?
Yes.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Winograd?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
The item passes.
Thank you, Ms. LeBreau. Appreciate that. And the last item that we have, oops, and I've got to get it on my internet has been very, very slow. It has not recovered very completely. Sorry. All right, two announcements. That is item 8 before adjournment. Again, I want to thank really remarkable work of our town clerk on yesterday's primary. This was a good dry run in crisis, so a crisis layered on crisis. So thank you for that. And again, thank you all for your cooperation and patience during this very, very challenging week and a half and again, 6 months. And we need your cooperation. We need, as you heard the town manager say, that gatherings that are really the cause of what we are seeing in our contact tracing for spread, for any community spread. So if we're going to protect our community, protect each other, protect our families, our neighbors, our first responders, our businesses that we want to remain open and support, please practice what the CDC has advised us to do. Obviously, vigorously washing hands, 6 feet or social distance, and wear face coverings when you can't maintain that, and always inside. So with that, announcements, artists selected for bus shelter art. 10 artists were chosen from over 50 entries submitted to the West Hartford Art League for their latest public art project funded by the Edward C. and Ann T. Roberts Foundation. These artists will transform 10 bus shelters throughout the town into works of art. Information about each artist can be found on the West Hartford Art League's website at westhartfordart.org, public art, along with the interactive map showing all 10 bus shelter locations. This is the third time the Art League has turned public bus shelters into the works of art. And the first project coincided with the Art Walk's 5th anniversary in 2008, and then again in 2013 for the 10th anniversary. So this will be a wonderful, wonderful lift and really a beautification of an expression of so much of our community. We're really looking forward to seeing that. Events, a new play reading, Playhouse on Park is thrilled to produce a new play reading in partnership with the West Hartford Community Interactive. This reading is part of the Playwrights on Park series and will feature Mackenzie McBride's play, The Telling and Retelling of Lucy and Owen. You can join live via a Zoom webinar on Sunday, August 16th at 7 p.m. Visit the Playhouse on Park's website to register. Afterwards, there will be a talk back with the playwright. If you miss it, you can watch it later on WHCI YouTube channel. 34th Annual Golf Tournament by the Chamber of Commerce will be held on Monday, August 17th with a 9 a.m. start at Wampanoag Country Club. Given the concerns surrounding COVID, the Chamber has moved to 100% online pre-registration. The $240 price per golfer includes 18 holes of golf, 2-player golf cart. Solo carts may also be rented for an additional $40, a full breakfast, and an afternoon barbecue. For more information, contact the Chamber of Commerce at info@westhartfordchamber.com or call 860-810-5663. There are free concerts coming up at Blueback Square, including School of Rock on August 14th from 4 to 5:30. The Accounting Crows, Friday, August 14th, 7 to 9 p.m. North Star Rising, Saturday, August 15th at 4 p.m. School Days, Thursday, August 20th, 6 to 8 p.m. Sonic Theory, Friday, August 21st, 7 to 9 p.m. And then Latin Salsa Night, August 29th, 6:30 to 9:30. And I know that they will be socially distanced and cleverly organized to prevent to preserve social distancing and eliminate any spread. So I'm sure there are much reduced crowds there, or I should say much reduced audience. No crowds. So, and all of these are subject to change with any change in health data, of course, at any time. And with that, I will make a motion with unanimous consent to adjourn, seeing no objection. We are adjourned. Stay healthy, stay well. Good night.